everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm speaking on Wednesday the 2nd of January today. I survived the New Year period, all the fireworks and everything, a lot better than I anticipated. I think because I knew I had sort of I'd been thinking about it in my mind for quite some time, which helped me kind of like plan, or sort of just knowing in advance really what was happening, I think helped me, and I definitely coped better this year than I think I've done previous years, so I was pleased with that. I'm pleased it's all over now, but it will take me a little while to get back to normal, usually not until the mid-January before I start to really feeling like I've got myself back together again after the New Year period. So New Year's resolutions. Well, actually, yes, I have two I'd like to just briefly mention. The first New Year's resolution is to read more fiction. As you know, I do read a lot. I'm a prolific reader. I live to read and read to live. But most of my reading is factual or philosophical. So it's kind of analytical reading, or a lot of reading about ideas, philosophy. But also I do read a lot, just about culture and about the way the world is, and, particularly things like nutrition. I read a lot more non-fiction than I do fiction, just because I find fiction harder to process. I guess because it's just harder for me to kind of understand fiction with all of its nuances and metaphors and all of that. But I really want to try and get a bit more out of my comfort zone and try and train myself to be better at reading fiction. I mean, I do read some fiction, don't get me wrong, and I have read some fiction last year. So I did a few books, if you recall one of my book reviews of, I think it was Invisible Man, which was a lengthy fiction book, admittedly with a philosophical theme, and I had to use Spark Notes to help me decipher it, because I do find fiction a lot harder than fact. But I have been reading some fiction. It's just that this year I want to try and read a lot more fiction. So my New Year's resolution is for every factual book I read to read fiction. So it'd be like fiction, fact, fiction, fact. That's the sort of pattern I would like to get it to follow this year. The other New Year's resolution is to fill in my week to view diary every day. I actually went to the Works, the discount store in the UK. I went to a local Works. And I bought a week to view diary, which is like a really big diary, and it's got each day, you've got a whole page dedicated to each day. So I really have no excuse. I got that diary with the intent of writing in it every single day. I've got a normal diary as well, a small regular diary I could take out with me, for appointments and stuff. But this, the week to view diary is more a kind of retrospective diary, like writing about things that have happened, more sort of journal diary, whereas my regular diary is where you write in events that are coming up. So that's the other resolution. Okay, now in this video I would like to answer one of your viewer questions in brief, which was, I can't remember exactly the wording, but it was something along the lines of, do people in your life respond negatively to your autism? The answer to that is very clearly yes. I'm not going to name any names because that wouldn't be fair, and for people who have been negative about my autism, they do so often, I think, mainly through ignorance and, just take some tea, sort of lack of insight, and they just don't know how to deal with it, I guess. But it does have a very significant impact on my life, because all through my life I've received more than my fair share of criticism. I mean, everyone receives criticism, that's normal and natural, but I think the difference is that for many, not all, of course there'll be non-autistic people who also for whatever reason receive more than their fair share of criticism, maybe because they're different in some other way or they're just very unfortunate. But I would say that most people who are well developed and have a healthy self-esteem and all of that tended to have grown up in an environment that doesn't just criticise. It also tells them what they're doing right, they receive praise, they're made to have a sense of belonging. I've never had that. And I think I think it's particularly difficult because the type of autism I have is invisible. I do not appear different, so people don't see me as different. They see me as one of them, and so they treat me like one of them. And because obviously I can't conform to their expectations, instead of them understanding that as something that I can't control and that is neurological, as they might say with someone who looks more obviously disabled, instead they see it as a character failing or as something that I should be able to control, that I should be able to change, that I'm kind of doing it deliberately. So you have a situation where it's almost like they're sort of telling me implicitly or explicitly that I should change who I am, that I should somehow cure myself. And obviously autism can't be cured, it's lifelong. So that would be a contradiction, because obviously if I could cure it, if I could change it, I would, but then I wouldn't be autistic. So I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place, because I either try and change myself so that I receive less criticism, but by doing that I experience extreme sort of worthlessness, because of course I can't meet those expectations no matter how hard I try, or I don't try at all, but then of course I get shouted at anyway. So I can't actually win whatever I do, and this obviously results in problems with self-esteem, and that's kind of inevitable. So the answer to that question is yes. I'm trying to think of some examples. Yes, so I've been told things such as, by people who know I'm autistic, things like that I don't have any feelings, and that is really, really painful for me, because obviously I do struggle with feelings. That's kind of part of being autistic, that I don't express feelings in a conventional way. I don't really understand feelings. I can appear quite emotionally numb, even though I might not be, but I can appear that because I don't display emotions as people would expect, or it can take me time to process things. So I could be in a really what for most people would consider to be an emotionally arousing situation, and my heart might be thumping away inside, but I'll just be standing there looking numb, and people won't see an expected emotional response, so they think I don't care. Obviously it couldn't be otherwise, because obviously I do care. Let's face it, if I afterwards, when people say these things, like I say I don't care, I then go away and I cry and I tear myself up and I feel really bad, and it adds another layer of kind of like cement. It kind of layers up inside, and it obviously affects me, even if I might not show it or I might not look like I'm affected. It does affect me, and this can sometimes then come back to haunt me even years later, because I don't forget criticism. I don't forget it. It stays there like cement. It just builds up over time. So it's very, very hurtful, because obviously that is a major triggering point, because obviously I guess, I don't know if this is the case for you, but often I find that as an autistic person, people judge me, they stereotype me, and there is a stereotype out there that autistic people don't have feelings, or that they lack imagination, and that isn't really true. It's more that we struggle to understand feelings, and it can take us a while to process things, but we can eventually get there given enough time. But people don't give us good time. They expect this instant reaction, and they expect us to show feelings in a conventional way. And if we don't show feelings in a conventional way, people assume we lack imagination and feelings, and that's what I've experienced, and it's very, very hurtful, because to be told that, because obviously it kind of suggests you're not quite human, because no one likes to be told to lack feelings. It implies that the person sees you as some robot or something like that. So yes, that's deeply hurtful, and that's just one example of how people have reacted very negatively to my autism, even people who know I'm autistic. Because obviously if someone doesn't know I'm autistic, because I'm not giving off, I'm not appearing that different on the surface, people then will judge me in non-autistic terms. But I think people should just step back and think anyway, because regardless of someone's neurotype, there could be I don't think this is just unique to autism, because there are other. I mean, non-autistic people sometimes might also take a time to process things, because everyone's different. And I just think people should step back, and if someone doesn't display an expected response, they shouldn't judge them for that, because there is likely to be a reason. Even if a person's not autistic, could be another reason, a whole range of reasons, upbringing, background, and culture, why people might not display emotions in the expected way. So I just think, I mean, it's ironic in a way, because I'm told I lack imagination, and yet the person who's saying this clearly lacks imagination themselves, because if they had imagination, they would understand, they'd have the imagination to understand, and not everyone displays emotion the same, and that does not mean, it does not follow from that that person lacks feelings. So I guess it is a bit ironic. But of course, if I tell them that, and I have indeed told them that out of anger, I then get shouted at. So again, it all comes back to me. So yes, it's very difficult, and because I'm autistic, obviously I do sort of struggle to regulate my tone of voice, particularly when I'm angry, and sometimes when I'm angry I can't always control my tone of voice, or when I'm stressed, and it does sometimes come out, maybe unintentionally, in a confrontational way. And I think, obviously, if someone doesn't know I'm autistic, you can give them some kind of leeway, because obviously they don't know, and I guess you can't blame them really for maybe react. It's just unfortunate. Although I do hope that with greater awareness raising in society, people will step back and not automatically swing into a default position of blaming a person and getting defensive themselves. Because obviously, the autistic person actually has a neurological reason for this. The other person who's non-autistic should be using their non-autistic abilities to understand this. I think there's actually someone called Damian Milton, I don't know if you've heard him, but he's an autistic lecturer. I came across him, I think, on YouTube, and he actually talks about the double empathy problem, this idea that it's not just the autistic person who's failing at communication, it's also the non-autistic person who doesn't have the emotional understanding or imagination to see things from the autistic person's point of view. And so it works both ways really. It's like when two neurotypes are clashing, but it's the autistic person who's always blamed, but actually that is really unfair, because the person who's communicating is also failing as well. So one person, it's not really the responsibility of one person, it's just simply the fact that two neurotypes are going to clash sometimes, and therefore there should be understanding. But yeah, that's interesting. If you Google that, the double empathy problem, I thought that was quite interesting. Obviously I could go into this in a lot more depth, and this is just really scratching the surface of this. If you'd like me to talk more about it at another time, you've got any more questions on this particular area that I haven't addressed, do let me know in the comments box below, because like I say, this would take a lot more than one video, and I'm not going to have time to talk about it in any more detail now. So I'm moving on now to the next video, where I'm going to be doing a book review of a National Trust afternoon tea book that I bought for myself off Amazon, as I showed you in the previous video, for Christmas. So moving on to video number 2 now.